I want to ramble a little bit as a follow-up to what I described to you about the destruction of our economy and how we're going to have to think very hard and very clearly, very purposefully about how we will respond and react, knowing, as we now do, that there's something deliberate in this, that it's not by accident that the powers that be have traded an economy with everything that that implies for a few thousand lives. Not that life is cheap, but it's not that expensive. When I was a kid, I was a lifesaver for many years, and I was a lifesaver at Inyoni Rocks Beach in Amanzimtoti. That's where I grew up. At the time, 35 years ago, it was still the beach that had the most shark attacks and shark attack fatalities. It still held that record. It no longer does. It hasn't for some time, but then it did. And there were shark nets there, as there are today. And the shark nets are staggered. I don't know if I can do this in a way that you understand. In other words, it's not one long net. It's a series of nets that overlap each other. I'm trying to show some depth here. So what happens is that the sharks swim in. They see a continuous line of trap, as it were, behind them as they're circling about. They panic and then swim into the nets, and they get caught on their way out, only on the way out. If I remember correctly, it was every Monday morning that the Natal Anti-Shark Measures Board would go and check the nets. Monday in Amanzimtoti, Tuesday at Warner Beach, Wednesday at Winkelspruit, Thursday at Carradine, Ilovo, whatever. And they would always find the sharks that were caught in the nets facing outward, facing towards the deep blue sea. That's how the nets worked. And as youngsters, there were 5 or 6 of us who were, very close, went through a lot of things together, lifesavers every weekend and life-saving championships, and we went to the same school and so on. And we, on a few occasions, swam out to the shark nets. Now, the shark nets are much further out than you would think, looking from shore. If you see the little boys bobbing, the yellow and red boys, yellow in the middle and then 2 red boys on the end, on the ends of each net, you would think that they were 150, 200 meters, whatever. They're much further out than that. I suppose 400 meters. And we'd swim out sometimes when we plucked up the courage, and on a clear, sunshiny day, it's very, very scary, because you can see down into the water fairly deep, and it becomes murky and sort of sinister. And you know that the sharks are on the inside of the nets. It's scary. It's terrifying. And excuse me. And anytime we did that, sooner or later, somebody would make the same silly joke. They would say, "I'm not the fastest swimmer here, but I don't have to be. I only have to be the second slowest." And then you'd see all of us begin to panic slightly, but not admitting it. And we'd kind of flap our arms under the water, just discreetly, like seal flapping, start edging closer to the shore, while pretending that we're going nowhere, And after about 100 meters, somebody would say, it's probably time to go in. And then we'd all pretend to sort of lazily begin swimming. Then put our heads down and swim like hell until we could catch a wave and body surf it in to the middle, what's called the mid-break, and then pick up a wave that's broken and try and get to the shore. And, you know, it's not nice to say it, but life is like that. Life is not so much about being first, it's about not being last. Life is, sadly, a competition to some degree. And as I said to you at the beginning of this video, this is a follow-up to what we discussed about the positioning ourselves to react well in the inevitable economic crisis that is coming. And I think that we have to see ourselves as a tiny elite. You know, our organization is big by any international standards. But if you take our, membership as a proportion of the South African population, which is about 85 million, as the government inadvertently revealed last year. We've done a few videos on that, I'm sure that you've seen. We were able to demonstrate that the South African population, not because we say so, but because the government said so, is about 85 million people. Not only said so, demonstrated it. They demonstrated the figures. And even as a fraction of the white population, we're small. Even as a fraction of the conservatives of South Africa, we're small. And you've got to encourage yourself with that thought. Even if your circumstances are bad, even if you've already lost your job, even if you're eating your preparations, no matter how bad things are, you've got to remind yourself that it is going a hang of a lot worse, and is going to go much worse again, with the overwhelming majority of people in South Africa. So much as it may not feel like it to you now, you are part of something that can be described as a small elite, an elite of elites. You are going to become more so as things deteriorate. Even as you're fretting about your job and your income and the loss of your house and your car and how you're going to pay school fees, as we're all doing. You have to remember that in a sense, you are being pushed ever more near the apex of the pyramid of society. The apex of the pyramid of sustainability. The apex of the pyramid of positioning. The apex of the pyramid of survivability. It doesn't feel like it, because in terms relative to your previous wealth, in terms relative to your previous job, in terms relative to your previous income, you may have less, and you may foresee yourself having even less again. But it's a relative thing. It's relative. The day that you're eating a bowl of cold pop, and there are 85 million people eating nothing, you're going to be right at the top of the pyramid. So for whatever this is worth to you in dark times, in difficult times, in scary times, may it encourage you. May it give you heart. May you be reminded that in the end, it's ashes to ashes and dust to dust. We cannot take our wealth with us. We cannot take our welfare with us. If you think of what you have now and what you may have in a year's time, compare it always to the nothing that you came into this world with and the nothing with which you will leave this world. And when you're one of the elite, you must be grateful. You must be, you have to be. Thank you. Bye-bye.